Hi, Nixie Change. Vivian here. I want to talk a little bit about loneliness and what that comes from and how to mitigate it or just completely do away with it if possible. First I want to say that loneliness is really it's a feeling. It's a soul thing. So, it has a lot to do with what you think. And I'm not saying that loneliness is just only a state of mind, but there is a connectedness to your thoughts and your feelings and the outcome of what loneliness is. So, loneliness comes from a longing for a connection that makes you feel whole. So, either loneliness comes from feeling like something is missing, and it can be either from yourself and just your source of being. You don't have that feeling of wholeness, and usually loneliness comes from wanting to feel that connectedness or somebody to bridge that gap of loneliness. And it really is a frame of mind. It's kind of like you feel like there's something that's missing, and that thing that's missing is outside of yourself. But when you really think about it and you really come to terms with who you are and what it means to be a human soul or a human being, you begin to realize that everything is within you and not outside of you. And that wholeness that you really are looking for is really, it's really within yourself. It's really inside of yourself. Because think about it. Sometimes you can be in a whole room of people and still feel lonely, right? Or you could be with a particular person and you're not connecting. It seems like you might not be connecting with them and you still feel lonely. So it really is not that the mitigation of loneliness comes from other people, because you've heard a lot of people say, I've been in a crowd of people and I still feel lonely. So it has a lot to do with self and how we connect to ourselves, and then anything else is just kind of like extra and frosting on the cake. So some ways that you can kind of reduce your or expel your loneliness is to find purpose and meaning in your life. So you find purpose in your life by, what is it that you do? What is it that you are becoming? What is it that, when I say what you do, not necessarily as a job or a career, but as a person, what characteristics, what soul characteristics are you putting out there? Are you putting out kindness? Are you putting out love? Are you a peacemaker? Are you putting out positive attributes, outside of your life, within your life and outside of your life to others, and then you find meaning in your life, whether it be spiritual meaning, moral meaning, or ethical meaning, or all of those meanings, and when you begin to connect on that level of purpose and meaning, you begin to connect with yourself and the source of your being, and that helps you to see the wholeness in your life. The second thing is that know the reality that you came into this world complete. So you came into the world complete as a person, as a being, and I often say you come into this world by yourself. I mean, there's, of course, you're born and you're being supported by somebody who's helping you, to arrive, but you're a whole entity when you come in. And when we leave this world, we're also a whole entity, and we don't take anybody with us, right? So we are already complete. We just have to find that. The third thing is self-love. You know, when you love yourself, I mean truly, and not just in word but in deed, you know, you find that wholeness in your you know, you're busy in your journey. You are engaged in self-love and taking care of yourself, you know. And the more you take care of yourself, the more you will mitigate the loneliness, because you once you learn yourself, you learn to be your own company. So when you want to go out, you know, when you want to be with others, it's because it's not to complete you. It's just because it's an added enjoyment. You know, because sometimes when people are saying that they're lonely, they're not necessarily lonely. It's just that they're pining for a particular person. And if you're pining for a particular person, you're looking for that person to complete you, or to make you whole, or to mitigate that loneliness. And you know, don't get them confused. You know, if you miss somebody, or you want to see somebody, or you want to share with somebody, that's perfect. But you're pining and you're desperate, and you know, for somebody, and because you need them to, or you feel like you need them, you know, that's something where self-love and wholeness, the identification of being whole in yourself, has not been discovered yet. The fifth thing, and I do have 10, is that loneliness is a belief and a thought that you keep thinking. So beliefs, remember, a belief is just something you keep thinking, and you're telling yourself that is true. So loneliness is a belief that you keep thinking. You know, I'm lonely. You know, I'm lonely. I'm lonely. And you keep telling yourself that. So refrain from telling yourself that, you know, and reframe what you say. You know, again, it goes back to, it's nothing wrong with wanting to share with someone. So instead of, you know, I'm so lonely, I wish someone were around, you know, it maybe reframe it with, it's a nice day today. It would be a good day to see so and so. It would be nice to share some time with them. You know, instead of feeling like you will be lonely without that person, or with, you know, those people or that group. Number 6, also be open with expectation and believe you can get what you desire. So sometimes people might be looking for romantic companionship, and you know, their expectation is that they'll be lonely, or they have a narrative, and they've created a belief that it's impossible for them to get someone, or there are no good people out there, and there are no this. And these are just, you know, stories that we tell ourselves, you know. And in order for things to come, we have to be open with that expectation. So if you want to have more social moments, be open with that expectation. Be open with that expectation, and believe that you can, you know, acquire the socialization that you're desiring. You know, there's, you know, billions of people in the world. So there's such a great opportunity and such a great possibility to share experiences with other people. And then also experience or allow opportunities. So you make or create what happens. If you want to share experiences with someone, you know, join a group, join a club, go to outings, have a hobby, you know. And, you know, anything that you do that's social creates an environment to meet people. But be open, you know, put that that energy or that vibe or that that mood, that chemistry, whatever it is, you know, it has to be out there. You know, you can't be closed. People can feel that you're closed, and if you seem like you're closed, you would be definitely unapproachable. Number 8 is be clear about what you want. What do you want? You know, instead of just, you know, ascribing that you're lonely and everything is lonely, you know, think about what it is that you want. You know, be clear. You know, maybe it's not loneliness. Maybe you want somebody, um, you know, to go to the park with you, or maybe you want someone to go running with you, or maybe you'd like someone to have tea with you, or maybe you just want to go for a walk on the beach. You know, what is it that you want? You know, what is it that you want to share? You know, instead of just framing it that, you know, you're lonely. Because, you know, when you paint that story over and over to yourself about being lonely, then you start inventing reasons why you're lonely. And then it starts eroding on your self-confidence, you know, about who you are. You know, you're lonely because nobody wants to talk to you, or because you can't make friends, or because nobody likes you. And then you begin to tell yourself these lies, you know, or these must be the reasons. And you invent these things. You create these things, you know, and then these begin to be thoughts and beliefs that you tell yourself. Number 9, avoid and cut off people that don't bring good vibes. You know, again, because as I mentioned, you can be with people and still feel lonely. And it could be because the people that you're with, you know, are causing that. There could be some toxicity there. There could be some abuse there. There could be some mental cruelty there. There could be some, you know, it could be a lot of things that's going on where that person is not connecting with you. And that could be provoking a feeling of loneliness that's not even there. I mean, that you may not have had before, until this person, their whole vibe is creating a toxic or negative ambience for you. And 10, sleep, diet, and exercise. You know, that's really good for feelings of loneliness. You know, sometimes you feel lonely because you might be borderline depressed, or you might be having depressive symptoms because of whatever. But if you have proper sleep, proper diet, proper exercise, you know, you could change your mood, because you have those neurotransmitters, the serotonin and the dopamine, that will come in and chemically, you know, change your mood in a natural way. So those are ways. And you know, and I know that you might be thinking, well, we need people. You know, there's the psychologist Maslow, who comes up with the hierarchy of needs, and he talks about, you know, that love and belongingness is something that we need. And you know, you do want to and desire those things, but you know, that should not feed into a feeling of loneliness. Because when you think about belongingness and sharing experiences, those things do help you actualize. So it's not that you need to be around people to feel whole, but when you are around people, the experience around people helps you to modulate and develop your emotions and socializing, and teaches you how to belong with other people. So remember, those are some ways that you can mitigate your loneliness if that's what you're feeling. Remember that loneliness comes from longing for a connection that makes you feel whole, and that thing is inside of you. You know, so this is Vivian here from Next to Change. And remember, everything that you need is within you and not outside of you. And the things that are outside of you just help you navigate the experience of being here in the world. And once you open up yourself to opportunities and you allow your self-love to come forward, and that confidence and that love and that assurance to spill out into all aspects of your life, you will see that feelings of loneliness will dwindle and you will find a new light within yourself. This is Vivian here from Next to Change. You be the next change.